Hello, Malcolm here, and welcome to Tuesday Teaching Tips, episode 300, and also part 7 of the series, How to Speak to All Generations with a Focus on Gen Z. As you may know, I've just come back from the conference in Oklahoma, focused on Gen Z, communicating with Gen Z, understanding Gen Z, how do we incorporate them into church life so that they feel like this is their church as much as my generation's or anybody else's. Fantastic conference. I really urge you to register and to be able to then watch the recordings, which are being put up afterwards. Tremendous talks, very helpful and vital, I think, to the future of our congregations, because the future of the congregation is less and less up to me these days. It's more and more about the generations younger than mine, which is not only about Gen Z, but Gen Z is our focus at the moment because they are the ones coming up and coming through. So a few thoughts today. And for more context on the things I'm going to share, you might want to watch some of my earlier posts and reports from the conference, but some convictions. And please forgive me because I'm quite jet lagged if they don't make entirely full sense, but never mind. So firstly, my first conviction is this, that I've got to learn the culture of Gen Z, because Gen Z is a different culture, not just a different generation. I was in the United States. I was not surprised that people drove on the other side of the road. I didn't try and make them conform to me and make everybody that was driving me, the Ubers and various friends who gave me lifts, I didn't try to make them drive on the side of the road that was comfortable for me. Would have led to carnage. No, I accepted it's a different culture. We need to accept, those who are older like me, that Gen Z and other younger generations have their own culture, and it's not up to us to change their culture. It's up to us to understand their culture. In my experience of already talking to a few young people, that if I make an effort to understand their culture, they will make an effort to understand mine. But the onus is on me. I'm older. I'm an older Christian. I should be the one more motivated, actually. So getting into understanding the culture for Gen Z is one of my responsibilities, and it will take effort, and it will take courage, and it will take humility. That's number one. Secondly, my second conviction is that I need to appreciate the trauma that Gen Z experiences that may be different from mine. I had a very illuminating conversation with a youngster on Sunday, and because they have their traumas and I have mine, and they're different. The era in which I grew up had certain pressures, and they were fairly intense at times, but they're quite different to the pressures of the younger generation. The issues of the overwhelming amount of information and material. I used to turn on the news once a day when I was a kid, or maybe I heard the news once a day on the radio. Now, even without trying, they're getting bombarded with news of what's going on, and most of the news out there online is negative. The pictures of what's going on in earthquakes and wars and things like that were limited for me. For this generation, it's a cascading waterfall of just more and more information, which is very challenging to process. It's challenging for me at my age. What is it like if you're 13, 14, 15? To have that come at you and maybe not have the strength of discipline yet at that point in life to be able to limit things in the way that might be healthy. So I think appreciating the trauma is a second thing, because I believe that this generation are under greater pressure than mine. Third thing, very powerful point was made, I think it was by Nadine Templer, that the Gen Z generation culture, they like Jesus. They think Jesus is interesting and admirable, but they're not that keen on the church generally as an institution. And also, they don't have a love of the scriptures in the same way that perhaps older generations do. Now, it's not to say they don't find their way to fall in love with the scriptures, but it's very much through Jesus. I fell in love with Jesus through the scriptures, I think, basically. Scriptures and hymns. Music and scripture helped me fall in love with Jesus. For Gen Z, again, only generally speaking, but generally speaking, it seems to be Jesus comes first, and that takes them into the Bible. So how do we show them Jesus? Yes, partly through the scriptures, of course. But isn't it also talking about Jesus with them? Talking about what he's done for us, what we think of him, how we feel about him, revealing Jesus to that generation. How do we do that? That'll take dialogue with that generation, but bringing Jesus to them seems to be the thing. It's likely that most of Jesus's disciples would have counted as Gen Z if they were living in our day and age. And one of them is found by Jesus, is Philip. He says, follow me. And then Philip does that. And then he goes and finds Nathanael, tells him that we found this amazing person. Nathanael's a little skeptical. So what does Philip say? He says, come and see. Come and see. Isn't that what we need to do? take a Gen Z person and say, come and see Jesus. That's my third thought. The fourth thought is this. It was a lot made of both from personal experience and sharing, but also from statistics, which were very interesting, about the fact that Gen Z are open to mentoring. They're open to spiritual mentoring and mentoring in many areas of life. Mentoring is not the same thing as being an apprentice. It's not the same thing as being someone who's being trained. And there's various flavors to mentoring, but they are open to mentoring. So one of the things I've come back with is to understand mentoring better and engage with Gen Z type people to say, well, would you like mentoring? And if so, what does that mean to you? And how can I help and how can others help with mentoring? So that's something for us to think about in our congregations. How can we get some mentoring going on if it's not already happening? And I think the last thing is how to involve Gen Z in leadership and what kind of leadership. And by leadership, I think what I mean there is allowing them to have influence, significant influence over decisions. Now, if they're very young, of course, it needs to be appropriate to their experience and gifts. But nonetheless, the idea of having some ownership over decisions is very important for anybody who wants to feel part of a church. And so how do we do that where I am in Watford? How do we do that where I am in Thames Valley? How do we do that? How can we involve young people in leadership so they, again, feel like their gifts are valued and that this is their church, not just their parents' church or possibly even their grandparents' church? So those are my, how many is that? Is that 5? Learn the culture, appreciate the trauma, bring Jesus to them, get spiritual mentoring going on, and involve them in leadership. So a handful of decisions right there for me to work on. So what about you? What do you think about this whole idea? What do you think Gen Z needs? If you're a Gen Z person, what do you need? I'm making some decisions here based on what I've heard, but if you could speak to me, what would you say? What do you need? Or if you're a parent of a Gen Zer, what do you think they need? Are you dialoguing with them? If you're a leader in a church, youth ministry, or any other kind, are you talking about these things together? This is something I need to do more where I am. Do you need to do more where you are? I wonder what you think. So please drop me a line. You can email me, malcolm@malcolmcox.org, or you can leave a message on the website, malcolmcox.org. On the YouTube channel, you can leave a comment. And let's all learn together. You know, when we comment and send messages, we begin to learn from each other. And we learn best when we're learning in community. If you think of anybody that might benefit from this recording, do please pass it on. And I just want to thank you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for helping me with this, with your prayers, if nothing else. And let's reach out to that generation, and Gen Z people, reach out to my generation. Let's work together. We need each other, don't we? We all need each other if we're going to help God's church be a church for everybody. So that'll do for today. And until the next time, keep calm and carry on teaching. Take care and God bless.